Evening settles gently over the Belgian countryside, where low hills soften into farmland and narrow roads curve past hedgerows darkening in the fading light. Fields stretch quietly toward the horizon, their textures muted by dusk, while small villages glow faintly with the first lamps of the night. The air feels cool and still, carrying the subtle scent of damp earth and fallen leaves. Somewhere beyond the fields, stone abbey walls rise from the landscape as if they have always belonged there. These buildings do not announce themselves loudly, nor do they demand attention. They wait patiently, shaped by centuries of wind, rain, and quiet routine. Their presence felt more than seen. One such place is Abbaye Notre-Dame d'Orval, often simply called Orval. Thought to have monastic roots reaching back to the early 12th century, the abbey's brewing tradition grew slowly alongside its spiritual life. Here, beer was never the centre of attention, but rather a natural extension of work, balance, and self-sufficiency. As daylight continues to soften, bells echo faintly across the countryside, marking the hour without urgency. Their sound drifts across fields and forests, touching village rooftops before dissolving into silence again. The rhythm feels unhurried, as though time itself has learned to move more slowly in this part of the world. Further north, near the banks of the Meuse River, stands Abbaye de l'Effet, associated with brewing traditions dating back to around 1240. Over centuries, the abbey became a steady presence in the region, its beer shaped by both faith and practicality. Even today, the name carries a sense of continuity, linking modern moments to distant beginnings. The countryside between these abbeys feels like a gentle bridge between past and present. Narrow roads wind through villages where stone houses sit close together, their windows glowing warmly from within. A cafe door closes for the evening, footsteps fade along a cobblestone street, and quiet returns almost immediately. As darkness deepens, the outlines of trees and fields blur into soft shadows. The world seems to exhale, releasing the busyness of the day and settling into something calmer. In this moment, the abbeys feel less like destinations and more like anchors, holding the landscape steady as night arrives. Within abbey walls, lamps are lit, and routines continue quietly. There is no rush to end the day, only a gentle transition from work to rest. Brewing rooms grow still, courtyards empty, and cloisters echo faintly with the last sounds of movement. Night now fully embraces the countryside, wrapping fields, villages, and abbeys in calm. The journey has only just begun, but already the pace has shifted. Here, among Belgian Abbey Breweries, the world invites stillness, reflection, and rest. Today's journey is shared with Beer Hunters International, fellow travellers who quietly explore the world through its most patient and storied places to enjoy a simple beer. Welcome to Bedtime Travel Stories, where soothing tales and gentle narrations take you on a tranquil journey through the world's most enchanting places, right from the comfort of your bed. Unwind and travel with us as we explore the globe one story at a time, helping you relax and drift into a peaceful sleep. Morning arrives quietly behind abbey walls, not announced by alarms or hurried movement, but by light slowly finding its way through narrow windows. The stone corridors remain cool, holding the night within them, while the day begins gently, shaped by habits that have changed very little over centuries. Life in a Trappist abbey follows a rhythm designed to balance work, prayer and rest. Brewing fits naturally into this pattern, not as an industry, but as a form of labour that supports the community. The act of making beer becomes part of a wider philosophy where simplicity and purpose guide each step. At Westfleteren Abbey, also known as St Sixtus Abbey, brewing began in 1838 as a way for the monks to sustain themselves. The abbey remains deliberately remote, surrounded by flat fields and long stretches of quiet. Here, beer is produced in limited quantities, never more than is needed, reflecting a belief that restraint is as important as skill. Within the brewhouse, movement is calm and deliberate. Copper vessels stand polished but unadorned, pipes curve gently along stone walls, and the air carries a faint warmth. There is no sense of urgency, only attention, as if each task deserves full presence. Further south, on a windswept plateau, stands Chimay Abbey, where brewing has continued since 1862. The monks of Scourmont Abbey settled here to cultivate difficult land, and beer became one of several ways they learned to live in harmony with it. Over time, brewing, farming and food production blended into a single steady way of life. In these abbeys, Trappist brewing is guided by quiet rules. The beer must be made within the monastery walls, overseen by the monks themselves, and any income must support the abbey or charitable works. Profit is never the goal, only sustainability and balance. This approach gives each beer a sense of place and intention. It is shaped not only by ingredients and technique, but by the silence of early mornings, the repetition of daily prayers, and the unchanging stone rooms in which it is made. Even the passing of years leaves only gentle traces. Outside, the world continues as it always has, fields shifting with the seasons and clouds drifting overhead. Inside, abbey life remains steady, offering continuity in a changing world. Brewing becomes one thread in a much larger tapestry, woven slowly and patiently. As the day unfolds, the meaning of Trappist brewing becomes clear. It is not about rarity or reputation, but about quiet purpose. In these abbeys, beer is simply another way of living thoughtfully, allowing time, care, and tradition to guide the work. Dawn arrives quietly in the forests of southern Belgium, where tall trees stand close together and mist lingers low among their trunks. The light at this hour is soft and uncertain, filtering gently through branches and leaves, touching the ground in pale patches that shift as the morning slowly unfolds. Nestled within this stillness are abbeys built for seclusion. Their stone walls seem to grow out of the forest itself, weathered into harmony with moss, roots and shadow. Here, silence feels intentional, not empty, but full of quiet presence. One such place is Rochefort Abbey, formerly known as the Abbey of Notre-Dame de Saint-Rémy. Founded in 1230, its brewing tradition began centuries later, gradually taking shape within the sheltered valley where the abbey rests. Surrounded by wooded hills, the abbey feels gently removed from the world beyond its gates. At this early hour, the abbey grounds remain calm. Paths wind through trees damp with morning dew, and stone buildings emerge slowly from the fading darkness. The forest seems to protect the abbey, softening sound and slowing movement, as if encouraging reflection before the day begins. Further north, near the quiet borderlands between Belgium and the Netherlands, stands Ashel Abbey. Brewing here began in the mid-19th century within an abbey long defined by isolation and simplicity. Forests surround the grounds, offering long stretches of uninterrupted calm. As the sun rises higher, light spills across clearing and cloister alike. Birds begin to stir, their calls gentle and spaced apart, never overwhelming the stillness. Smoke may rise faintly from a chimney, the only visible sign of life within the walls. Inside, the day starts as it always has. Bells signal the morning rhythm, and footsteps echo softly along stone corridors. Brewing, prayer, and work will follow familiar patterns, guided by tradition rather than clocks. The forest holds on to its quiet even as daylight strengthens. Leaves shift slightly in a passing breeze, and shadows retreat toward the edges of the abbey walls. The sense of separation remains, not as isolation, but as intentional distance from noise and distraction. In these forest abbeys, dawn feels like a promise of steadiness. The world awakens gently, without urgency. Surrounded by trees and stone, the abbey continues its patient rhythm, offering calm that settles deeply and lasts well beyond the morning. Within the abbey, the brewhouse feels calm and grounded, shaped by repetition rather than innovation. Stone floors hold the cool of the night, and the air carries a quiet warmth as the day's work begins. Each movement is measured, unhurried and familiar, guided by habits refined over generations. Brewing here is not treated as a task to be completed quickly, but as a process to be respected. Time is allowed to unfold naturally without being forced. Water is heated slowly, grains are added with care, and silence is never considered a problem to be filled. At Westmore Abbey, founded in 1794, brewing became an essential part of monastic life as the community sought ways to sustain itself. Over time, the abbey refined its methods, eventually helping shape what would become the modern triple style in the early 20th century. Even so, the process remains rooted in simplicity rather than experimentation. Inside the brewhouse, copper vessels stand quietly beneath arched ceilings. Pipes trace gentle paths along stone walls, and light filters in through high windows, never harsh, never bright. The work continues in near silence, broken only by the soft sounds of liquid moving and tools being set down. Brewing in this environment takes on a meditative quality. Attention is focused on the present moment, on temperature, timing, and balance. There is no separation between physical labour and reflection, only a steady awareness that carries through the work. Further south, Abbey de Maretsous offers a similar approach. Founded in 1872, the Benedictine Abbey is known for combining monastic tradition with hospitality. Brewing here developed alongside welcoming travellers, blending quiet work with an openness to the outside world. The act of brewing becomes a rhythm within the day, repeating without becoming dull. Each batch follows the same steps, yet no 2 days feel exactly alike. Subtle changes in light, air, and season gently shape the process, reminding those at work to remain attentive. As hours pass, the brewhouse remains calm. There is no visible urgency to finish, only a trust that the process will reach its conclusion in its own time. Brewing teaches patience not through instruction, but through practice. By the end of the day, the vessels are cleaned, the work set aside, and the space returns to stillness. Brewing, like prayer, leaves a quiet imprint. It becomes less about the beer itself and more about the steady, thoughtful way in which the work is done. Beyond the abbey gates, the landscape begins to soften into village life. Stone paths lead away from the monastery, curving gently towards small clusters of houses where chimneys rise low and roofs lean slightly with age. The pace here remains unhurried, shaped by proximity to the abbey and its steady rhythm. In the early hours, the village feels almost suspended between night and day. Windows glow briefly as lamps are extinguished, doors open quietly, and footsteps echo faintly along cobblestones. Life resumes without haste, guided by routine rather than schedules. Near one such village stands Affligem Abbey, founded in 1074. Brewing has long been part of the abbey's relationship with the surrounding community, woven into centuries of shared history. The village grew alongside the monastery, its fortunes gently rising and falling in parallel. Shops open slowly, and a bakery window fills with the warm scent of fresh bread. Locals greet one another with small gestures rather than words, their movements familiar and unremarkable in the best possible way. The abbey's presence is felt not as authority, but as quiet continuity. Further south, another village gathers near Abbey de Floref, whose brewing traditions stretch back nearly 9 centuries. Here, the abbey sits close enough to village streets that its bell towers remain visible from doorways and garden paths. The sound of bells marks time for everyone, not just those within the walls. The village streets curve gently, never straight for long. Stone houses cluster together for warmth, their walls thick and weathered. A small cafe sets out a few chairs, and conversation remains low, respectful of the calm that seems to drift outward from the abbey. Throughout the day, villagers move in and out of view, carrying on lives shaped by generations before them. Some paths lead toward the abbey, others toward fields and farms beyond, but all feel connected by shared history and place. As afternoon fades, the village begins to quiet once more. Doors close softly, voices retreat indoors, and shadows lengthen along the street. The abbey remains steady in the background, unchanged by the passing hours. Here near the abbey walls, daily life feels gently grounded. The village does not compete with the monastery's calm, but reflects it, offering a way of living that values patience, familiarity, and the comfort of belonging. As midday approaches, the abbey kitchens come quietly to life. There is no rush, no raised voices, only the steady rhythm of preparation that has been repeated for centuries. Stone floors remain cool underfoot, while the air slowly fills with familiar, comforting scents. Meals in an abbey are simple by design. Bread is sliced carefully, soup is stirred without haste, and tables are set with quiet efficiency. Food here is meant to nourish rather than impress, shaped by the same values that guide prayer and work. At Chime Abbey, beer, bread and cheese have long been produced side by side. Since brewing began in 1862, these foods have formed part of a balanced daily life on the Scourmont Plateau. Each item supports the others, creating a rhythm where nothing feels excessive or wasted. The refectory remains hushed during meals. Conversation is minimal or absent, allowing attention to rest fully on the act of eating. Cutlery moves slowly, bowls are lifted carefully, and even small gestures feel deliberate. The simplicity brings a surprising sense of calm. Beer, when it appears at the table, is treated much like the bread beside it. It is not a reward nor a distraction, but part of the whole. Its presence reflects the care taken in its making and the patience that allowed it to mature in its own time. For those who quietly seek places like this beyond the page, journeys centred on beer often lead not to noise, but to stillness. Beer Hunters International follows these slower paths, where a simple drink reflects place, patience, and time. Beyond the walls of Trappist life, other abbeys followed similar traditions. At Abbey d'Aulne, brewing once played a vital role in daily sustenance. Though the abbey now stands in quiet ruin, its history still echoes with shared meals and steady routines shaped by the land. In these places, food connects people not through abundance, but through restraint. Portions are modest, ingredients familiar, and repetition is welcomed rather than avoided. Over time, the meals become markers of the day, grounding each hour as it passes. After eating, dishes are cleared without ceremony. The room returns quickly to stillness, chairs tucked in, tables wiped clean. The sense of completion feels gentle, as though the meal has settled not just the body, but the mind as well. Here, meals are never separate from the wider rhythm of abbey life. Bread, beer, and simple food form a quiet triangle of nourishment, linking the work of the brewhouse to the stillness of the cloister. In their simplicity, they offer comfort that lingers long after the table is cleared. As the year turns, life around the abbeys shifts almost imperceptibly, guided by changes in light, temperature, and the land itself. There are no dramatic announcements marking the arrival of a new season, only subtle adjustments that become familiar through repetition. In spring, fields surrounding the abbeys begin to soften and brighten. Shoots emerge from soil long rested through winter, and paths once quiet with frost grow damp with rain. The abbeys respond gently, opening windows a little wider, allowing fresh air to move through cloisters and workrooms alike. At Orville Brewery, the rhythm of brewing remains steady throughout the year, yet time continues to leave its quiet mark. Orville is known for producing a single beer whose character evolves as it ages. Even after leaving the Abbey, the beer continues its journey, changing slowly with the passing months, much like the seasons themselves. Summer brings longer days and a soft abundance to the countryside. Fields are fuller, forests deeper in colour, and the air carries warmth that lingers into the evening. Work continues without urgency, shaped by daylight rather than clocks, and pauses feel naturally earned. As autumn arrives, the land begins to quiet once more. Leaves turn and fall, paths grow soft underfoot, and the air cools noticeably. At Belgian Abbey, founded in 1216, brewing has long reflected these agricultural cycles. The Abbey's connection to the surrounding land remains strong, with each season shaping the pace of daily life. Winter settles in slowly, bringing shorter days and longer nights. Frost gathers along stone walls, and silence deepens across fields and forests. Inside the abbeys, warmth is drawn inward, routines become more contained, and work continues with quiet focus. Through all of this, brewing remains constant. Ingredients may respond subtly to temperature and time, but the process itself does not rush to match the seasons. Instead, it provides a steady thread, anchoring the year as everything else shifts around it. The passing of seasons becomes less about change and more about continuity. Each cycle reinforces the one before it, creating a sense of reassurance rather than repetition. Nothing is lost, only transformed. Here, within the steady rhythm of Abbey life, the year unfolds patiently. Seasons come and go, but the calm remains, offering a reminder that time does not need to hurry in order to move forward. The road narrows as it begins to climb, winding gently upward through fields that slowly give way to forest. Villages fall away behind, replaced by longer stretches of silence where the land feels less shaped by people and more guided by time itself. The air grows cooler, clearer, carrying the faint scent of pine and damp stone. High in the hills, abbeys appear with little warning. One moment there is only woodland and sky, and then stone walls emerge, steady and unassuming, as if they have always been part of the slope. These places feel deliberately distant, chosen not for convenience, but for the quiet they provide. Among them is Rochefort Abbey, resting within wooded hills far from major roads. Founded in the 13th century, the abbey's setting reinforces its sense of retreat. Brewing here developed slowly, shaped by isolation and a deep connection to the surrounding land rather than outside demand. Paths leading to the abbey are soft underfoot, bordered by grass, stone and low walls darkened by age. Sound carries differently in the hills, absorbed by trees and slopes, leaving only the occasional call of a bird or the distant echo of a bell. Even movement feels quieter here. Further north, near the borderlands, Ackle Abbey sits surrounded by long stretches of forest and heath. Brewing began here in the mid-19th century, guided by the same desire for solitude and self-sufficiency. The abbey's distance from towns allows daily life to unfold without interruption. From these hilltop settings, views extend across valleys and treetops, offering perspective rather than distraction. Weather moves in gently, clouds drifting low one day and lifting clear the next. Each change is observed rather than resisted, becoming part of the rhythm. Inside the abbey walls, life remains steady and contained. Brewing, prayer and rest continue without reference to the world beyond the hills. The sense of remoteness is not isolating, but grounding, creating space for focus and calm. As evening approaches, shadows stretch longer across the slopes. The hills begin to soften into silhouette, and light gathers briefly around windows before fading. The abbey holds its place quietly, unchanged by the passing hour. In these remote settings, distance becomes a gift. The hills offer protection from noise and urgency, allowing time to slow and attention to settle. Here, the abbey stands not above the land, but within it, patient and enduring. As daylight begins to fade, the abbey guesthouse takes on a quieter presence of its own. It stands slightly apart from the main buildings, close enough to feel connected, yet distant enough to offer rest and privacy. The transition from day to evening happens gently, without announcement. Travellers arrive without hurry, their footsteps soft against stone paths. Doors open and close quietly, voices remain low, and the sense of arrival feels calm rather than anticipatory. There is no rush to unpack or explore, only a gradual settling into stillness. Near Westmall Abbey, the guesthouse has long welcomed those seeking quiet rather than distraction. Visitors come not for spectacle, but for pause. The abbey's presence shapes the atmosphere, encouraging simplicity and reflection from the moment one arrives. Rooms are modest and uncluttered. Windows frame views of trees, courtyards or distant fields, now softened by the lowering light. Lamps glow warmly as evening deepens, casting gentle shadows that move slowly across walls and floors. Further south, Mauritshuis Abbey is also known for its tradition of hospitality. Founded in the 19th century, the abbey has long offered rest to travellers, blending quiet welcome with monastic routine. The guesthouse becomes a place where outside concerns naturally fade. As twilight settles, the sounds of the day diminish. Bells may ring once more, distant and unhurried, marking the approach of night. Conversations, if they occur at all, remain brief and subdued, giving way easily to silence. From guesthouse windows, the landscape shifts into silhouette. Hills darken, trees merge into shadow, and the last light lingers briefly along rooftops and paths before disappearing. The world beyond the abbey seems to recede. Inside, the sense of calm deepens. Chairs remain empty, corridors still, and the air feels settled. The guesthouse holds this quiet carefully, offering a pause that feels both deliberate and effortless. As night approaches fully, rest comes naturally. There is nothing left to do, nowhere else to be. In the gentle quiet of the guesthouse, twilight completes its work, preparing both place and traveller for sleep. Night settles fully over the abbey grounds, arriving without drama. The last traces of colour fade from the sky, replaced by deep blue and quiet stars. Stone walls release the warmth gathered during the day, and the land grows still, as if listening. Within the abbey, lamps glow softly behind thick windows. Corridors empty, doors close gently, and the day's routines come to rest. The world beyond feels distant now, held at bay by darkness and distance. At Westfleteren Abbey, night has always been an essential part of the rhythm. Brewing began here in 1838, but the true continuity lies in the hours after work has ended. Silence becomes complete, broken only by the occasional footstep or the faint sound of wind moving across open fields. Courtyards stand empty beneath the night sky. Shadows gather along cloister walls, and pathways that felt familiar by day now appear softer, less defined. The abbey does not resist the darkness, but accepts it, allowing night to bring rest in its own way. Further south, Abbaye Notre-Dame d'Orval returns to stillness once more. Founded centuries ago, Orval has known countless nights like this, each one closing gently over stone, forest and water. Brewing spaces lie quiet now, their work complete until morning. From the hills and valleys around the abbey, the land seems to breathe more slowly. Trees stand motionless, fields rest under shadow, and distant villages dim to only a few scattered lights. Everything unnecessary has fallen away. Inside, rest comes naturally. The steady patterns of the day no longer ask for attention, replaced by a sense of completion. Night does not interrupt the abbey's rhythm, it completes it. Time feels less measured here after dark. Hours stretch without pressure, and the quiet becomes something felt rather than heard. The abbey holds the silence carefully, as it has for generations. As sleep settles across the grounds, the work of centuries continues without effort. Brewing, prayer, and daily life will return with the light, but for now, nothing more is required. Night fully claims the abbey and its surroundings, wrapping stone and forest in calm. The journey comes to rest here, where tradition, patience, and quiet endure, carrying gently into sleep. This episode is gently supported by Beer Hunters International, where journeys unfold slowly, and a good beer is simply part of the story. We hope you enjoyed today's serene journey and found peace in our gentle narration. Do join us next time as we make a relaxing visit to another of the world's most iconic places. Sweet dreams and safe travels until we meet again.